friend of hers on Facebook, and she showed me the ordinance, and I read it through a few times. And I was concerned because of the fact that, as a physician, I'm a practicing medical doctor. I'm an anesthesiologist. I'm chairman of the department at Lakes Region General Hospital. And I've lived with masks for decades. I work with them every day, and I know a little bit about them. And what concerned me about the ordinance, aside from the political overreach of the selectmen passing this sort of one-size-fits-all umbrella policy, was the fact that it was both vague and poorly crafted, in addition to the fact that it doesn't introduce any kind of an argument or any support for the efficacy of the mask versus the downside of the mask. The very last paragraph in that document states that if you have a medical professional who you can say states that this has potentially negative ramifications, you got one. It's me. I'm telling you right now that Eric Meyer, anesthesiologist, Lakes Region General Hospital, is telling you that it is a mixed bag and that there are potential negative consequences of wearing a mask. To begin with, when you put on an effective mask, an N95 or a rated mask by a commercial source, the oxygen level in your blood drops down a couple of points. It's not very large, 2 or 3%. And if you're healthy and you're not very active, you probably won't notice it. But anybody who's ever tried to, say, run a marathon or do aerobic exercise with a mask on, you can personally attest to the fact that it's harder to breathe. If you have conditions, cardiopulmonary conditions, you've got COPD, emphysema, heart disease, you're overweight, you've got any kind of a limitation where your natural level of oxygen in your blood is a little bit compromised. Knock that down another couple of percent and that could put you over the line. It is a potential risk. In addition, the weather here is hot and it's humid. And one of the major ways that your body cools off, besides sweat, is the humidification of the air that you breathe in. Whenever you exhale, you're exhaling 100% humid air. And that does a lot of cooling for the body. That's why dry heat is far more comfortable than wet heat or humid heat. It's not the temperature, it's your body's inability to cool. Again, if you've got somebody who's heavy or somebody who has cardiovascular disease, somebody who is struggling to get around even without a mask, they can overheat in this kind of weather, and that again is potentially a negative ramification of wearing the mask. If you've got skin conditions, you've got rosacea, you've got acne, you get some sort of a problem with the irritation, the mechanical irritation of the mask, you got another problem. Aside from that, you have to balance against
guy's an
that
anesthesiologist.
the mask is in fact appropriate in certain circumstances. We wear them every day. We wear commercial rated masks that provide protection to both the patient and to us, and we know how to use them. Many people, most people, don't. When a mask is put on, it has to be changed, replaced, every time you enter a new circumstance, you deal with another person. People don't do that, and if you look at the ordinance, the 5th paragraph up, it says that you can use commercial masks, or you can make them yourself out of materials that don't have holes in them. The only material that doesn't have a hole in it is aluminum foil or plastic wrap. Even an N95 has holes in them. They're just very tiny. So it's poorly crafted. You can use a bandana. You can use a scarf. You can use a piece of cloth. You can use common household materials like paper towel, toilet paper. Anything would be acceptable. That isn't an effective way of providing a mask. That's simply wearing a good luck charm. And the problem with it is it gets people inappropriately complacent with the idea that they're wearing the mask, so now they can take a chance. Last week, I went into a Walmart and I saw some guy wearing some really sketchy looking mask that had a blood stain on it. The point is, he probably wore that same mask day after day after day, putting it on the floor of his car, putting it in his pocket, shoving it onto his face. That thing is as dirty as anybody's underwear. You don't want him touching that mask and then shaking your hand, picking up the product. That mask is a bacterial filter. It's a viral filter. It also contains and supports spores and viruses and bacteria. And if it's not appropriately disposed of, it can actually be a negative health risk because of the fact that it's so dirty. Now, I'm not saying that the masks shouldn't be used. If you're sick, stay home. If you're really sick, go into the hospital. If it turns out that you have to get out of the house, wear a mask. It's going to protect you, and it's going to protect somebody else if you use it appropriately. If you're dealing with an elderly relative, if you're dealing with someone who's immunocompromised, wear wear a mask by your choice, using your judgment to decide whether or not it has more benefit than detriment. An umbrella rule that says that everybody wears a mask all the time of any make, any manufacturer, and questionable effectiveness is inappropriate. It's a bad ordinance. It should not be passed. It should be questioned on the basis of its merits, and I think it's inappropriate for them to go ahead and provide this as something that we have to do rather than something that we use our own judgment to decide on. We're adults, we're citizens, we're not children, we're not subjects. This is something that you use your own judgment to decide on. And if you need any kind of bona fides from me, I'm saying this right now, there are potential negative consequences of wearing a mask. Thank you.
Thank you.